Hi, everybody. I know there's only a few people on right now, I think. Um, we don't have a whole lot of people on just yet. Maybe some more will join us shortly. I'm Wayne the Boat Guy, and this is my second Wayne the Boat Guy live video. So thanks for joining me. Anyway, sorry, I'm just making sure that everything's keyed up and working properly here. Um, so we're going to start off just sort of talking about a couple of different things. One of them I want to ask everybody is put up a little poll right here, which is about whether you've started winterizing your boat yet. It's getting to be that time of year, unfortunately, and I think I just put the poll up there. Yep, there we go. And I have not started winterizing my boat yet. Around here, we can usually boat well into October. Doesn't usually get below freezing until November. So I'm going to keep an eye on the weather. However, I'm having a few problems with my big boat. So I may actually start winterizing it sooner than later. Anyway, just want to say hello to the couple of people who are on here. Um, and find out how many so far everybody has not started winterizing their boat yet. Yeah, so the reason I may pull mine a little bit earlier is because I'm having some tilt trim issues again this year, which I had last year. Actually, when I bought the boat, the tilt trim didn't work, and it quit working on me a couple of weeks ago. The outdrive's in the down position though, so it's not impacting me too much. We're still taking the boat out, doing some things, but yeah, it's going to need some serious work done to the tilt trim mechanism this year. And I tried accessing it a few weeks ago just to see if I could just pull the relays again and get it working, and that didn't seem to do the trick. And where my tilt trim mechanism is behind the water tank, behind the seating area underneath of the back of the boat, and literally I have to crawl essentially over top of the engine, laying with my arms completely funneled through very tiny openings and trying to access parts in there. It's just not worth trying to do without taking a whole lot of things apart. Getting near the end of the season, I'll be doing that soon enough anyway. So, um, anyway, just saying hi to everybody who's on here. And let's see here if I can open up the poll. Nope, I can't open the poll all the way up yet. So, um, anyway, so for those of you who are on, thank you so much for tuning in. Um, we're going to keep this one short today. It's not going to be long at all. Hi, Carl. Hi, Gary. Hi, Joe. And hello, Animal Science TV. I know it's very late where you are, so I appreciate you tuning in. Um, anyway, uh, so a couple of updates and things like that, and we're not going to be on for too long today. For those of you who follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you'll know that I did make another recent purchase. I found myself a pedal boat, one of those little ones that you ride on whenever you go to places like Baltimore's Inner Harbor, and so I got myself one of those. I found a very reasonably priced one and basically just snagged it up and brought it home. I haven't done anything else with it yet, but there'll be a video about that once I get playing around with it. So that's an upcoming project. And if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I'll be posting some updates as I'm doing things with that. Usually, the things that are happening in my life are sometimes weeks or even a month or so behind what's happening on YouTube. So uh, it takes a while to get things caught up there. Um, and Carl, I see you have a question. Hello, Martin, by the way. Hi, thanks for joining us. Carl, you have a question about fuel stabilizers, my opinion and my advice. It's interesting because the marina that I use actually just started using ethanol free fuel this year, which does not require fuel stabilizers. But I have always used Stable Marine 360 in all of my fuel that has ethanol in it. Um, it seems to help, but I have found that if fuel is sitting for longer than 5 or 6 months, it does tend to have some separation issues. And there's a couple of schools of thought there. One of them is to keep your tank full because then there's less chance for sort of, I guess, air to get in there to separate the fuel from the ethanol. And then other ones are to have your tank as empty as possible. Obviously, if you have your tank as empty as possible and there are separation issues where there's water in your tank, it's easier to get that out rather than if you have 50 or 60 gallons of water fuel mixture going on in there. Um, I've struggled with it a little bit. I had a problem with a lawnmower, and I think right now I'm having problem with my two-stroke fuel that I use for my small Mercury outboard because of some fuel separation issues. And I don't think I put Stable 360 in that, and I think that's why I'm having some issues. So I do use it, and I would put in extra over the winter just to be safe. But I usually am not having my fuel sitting for longer than 3, 4, 5 months. My old boat, I did put an extra stabilizer over the winter, filled up the tanks, and I didn't have any problems with water in my fuel. So I hope answered your question there, Carl. I also know that if you're local, I believe there's a gas station in on Furnace Branch Road that sells ethanol-free fuel as well. So sometimes people who use portable tanks go up there to get their fuel up there because that does not have separation issues. So anyway, uh, that's with regards with that. Interesting thing is my little Mercury 2.5 horsepower outboard motor recently gave me some trouble. I went out uh, just for a midday outing on a really nice day recently, and I found that as soon as I left my pier, the engine cut off, and it just kept on doing it. And every time I'd restart it, it would cut off. It was Water was coming out of the telltale. Everything else seemed to be fine. And I don't know if it's an overheating issue or if it's a fuel issue. So I've got to dig into that and sort that out. And hopefully, as I do that, I can make a video about it because, once again, one of the things that I try to do here is I try to share what I learn and what I do. And so when I go to pop open the cover of that engine and take a look for the first time, I'll be recording. And that's how I usually like to do these things because I don't have a lifetime of experience doing that. So the good and the bad and the ugly, I try to make sure I record all that. Um, so, hey, I see somebody else join me here from across the pond. Rev Views. He's another friend of mine. By the way, if any of you like to ride motorcycles or motorbikes, he's got a channel about that, and he does some really great reviews of some awesome bikes. I was watching his latest video today about this BMW motorcycle, and it literally has, I believe, it has a power windscreen that actually comes up there, which was super cool to see in the video. Um, anyway, sorry, getting sidetracked there. So I'll probably be making a video about the Mercury soon. Um, Animal Science TV also is on here, and just in case any of you like to see some videos about animals, he's another YouTuber, and he has a channel about animals. And his most recent video is actually about a carrier pigeon from World War One, which is really fascinating story. Um, Especially now, whenever you're looking back, this is 100 years ago, and to think about how they had to handle things in battle back then. And he did a really neat video about that that I actually caught last week. So that's a very cool video. He asked a question also: any major differences in boat maintenance in freshwater versus saltwater boat? I guess is really how you're asking it. And yes and no. One of the big things is that with saltwater, a lot of times people making sure they're using saltwater motors. You have to use a different anode. And if you're pulling your boat out of the water, you should always be flushing the motor very thoroughly every time you pull the boat out. And in freshwater, you don't have a lot of those issues because without the salt in it, there's a lot less corrosion issues. So, um, anyway, that's to answer that question really briefly. Um, so, a couple other things that are going on. I used to be posting videos weekly, and I've actually switched to posting a little less frequently. As with a lot of people, things have changed over the last year and a half, and my other obligations are taking more hours of my day now, leaving me less time to go boating and less time for shooting videos. So I've switched to trying to release something every couple of weeks. So periodically, I may try to do one of these live streams, and then I will still be doing videos, but instead of having one coming out a week, I'll probably have 2 or 3 a month, just to let everybody know what's going on with that. Um, so, anyway, I mentioned the pedal boat, which I'm pretty excited about, and want to see some things that I can come up with that. And I also just want to see if it's seaworthy. And right now, it's a mess. It's fantastic. So can't wait to get cleaning on it, scrubbing it, and drop it in the creek and see what happens. Um, some other things that are going on. Is I had mentioned earlier, I believe, either in social media or on my channel. Um, Let me check on my channel here. I might have mentioned it on there in the community pages. I had mentioned about the fact that um, I was considering getting a larger boat for my small boat. So currently, I have my 12-foot V hull boat, which is an old boat and needs some work. It's still seaworthy, but it definitely needs some work. Um, so I had an opportunity, I thought, to trade it basically for a 14 to 16-foot boat. And basically, what happened was I saw a post where somebody was looking for a 12-foot boat like mine. And then I had also seen where somebody else was trying to sell this 14 to 16-foot boat. And basically the cost was going to be it was going to be a wash. So I could sell my 12-foot boat for what it was going to cost me for this 14 to 16-foot boat. So I was looking at it sort of as trading. So I got pretty excited by that, and I posted a poll on my community feed for my channel, and there was quite a few people who said, "Oh yeah, definitely do that. Go for the bigger boat." And I was really psyched to do that. So I set up a time, and I looked at all the pictures and the post, and asked the guy. I said, "Are you sure this is a 14 or 16-foot boat?" And he said, "Absolutely." It was his grandfather's boat or something. And set up a time to go meet him. Drove the. It was a while. It was a long drive. Probably about a 45-minute drive, I guess, to go see the boat, and met him there and went to look at the boat. And as soon as I took a look at the boat, I realized it's a 12-foot boat, just like mine. Matter of fact, it had a narrower beam than mine. It's a nicer shape than mine, but narrower beam. So it wasn't an upgrade. It wasn't a 14 or 16-foot boat. It was just a 12-foot boat. So anyway, didn't end up getting that boat. I just decided to keep the one that I have because it's in better shape. So anyway, didn't get to do that, but I'm still on the lookout for a bigger boat because I think that would be fun and it'd be a neat project. But until that time, I'm actually going to do a lot of improvements to the 12-foot boat that I have. The transom has some issues. The wood is in terrible shape, and the aluminum has cracked on the top edge. So it needs to be repaired, replaced, patched, fixed, something. And so I'll be doing some of that stuff over the winter, hopefully. I see a couple of questions came in through here. Um, And first of all, Animal Science TV asked, "Was it fun working with the Coast Guard guy? And will I do any more videos with other people in them?" Um, I've been trying to line up a few things, and so far hasn't come together. There's a few people whose schedules and my schedules have been kind of very conflicting. We haven't been able to match up, and then there's been a few other people who just haven't been interested in being on camera. So I'd like to. I enjoy doing that a lot. I like working with other people. Um, and that guy was pretty neat to work with. If anybody's seen that video about where I had the Coast Guard auxiliary come out and inspect my boat, it was a little challenging to make too because I only had a microphone on me and I didn't have a microphone on him, so I don't have equipment to be able to have multiple microphones on people yet. Um, Carl, you asked, does my boat have trim tabs and does it help in choppy water? I do not actually have trim tabs installed. A friend of mine was talking to me about giving me his old trim tabs because he's putting some different ones on his boat. From what I understand, it does help in choppy water, and also it helps whenever, sometimes when you're in your boat by yourself and it kind of seems to be, leaning on the starboard side a little bit. Kind of helps level it out and also helps it get on plane a little bit better, apparently. I'd love to play around with some trim tabs and sort of do a before and after test. My boat is really hard to do that stuff with because I have a really big swim platform on the back. And so it would be hard for me I'd have to, go out, ride it around, bring it out of the water, play around with installing them and put it back in again. And I usually leave mine in the marina. So um, that's um, that's that's sort of my limited knowledge about trim tabs, but I'm really eager to try them out. Um, Viewers, what do you recommend for a first boat and why in saltwater? Oh, and by the way, let me say a little hello here to me here. Hi from Australia. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Um, by the way, if you're liking this, please give it a thumbs up down below. It helps other people find this live chat if they want to tune in. Um, anyway, so first boat. That's a really great question. I've done a couple of videos about that, and I'm actually working on another one right now. Um, and as I get more and more experience, I realize that a first boat really varies by the person and the places that they're going to boat. Um, if you're boating in saltwater, obviously you're going to be boating in conditions that are rougher than ponds and lakes and things like that. So, you need to have something a little bit larger of a boat. I always recommend people to get a used boat for their first boat if they've never been a boater before, because you're going to make mistakes. And I still periodically have somebody open my eyes, whether in in a nice way or a not so nice way, about something that I'm not aware of that I should be doing or that is good etiquette or good way to do things. And um, so what I found was around we're in brackish water. Was my first boat was an old 19-foot boat. And what was nice about that, by getting an old boat, is that if I bang into a piling or beach it or have problems banging it up, getting it on off my trailer, that's fine. My boat was really old and really marked up anyway. And I had very little invested in the boat. And so the advantage of that is, if you bash something and break something of your $1,000 boat, that hurts a lot less than it does of your new 50 or $60,000 boat. So it's always kinda nice to get sort of, I guess, the biggest boat you can afford if you're going out in salt water. However, leaving allocation for having a vehicle to be able to pull that boat and also money to be able to repair and maintain that boat. So, for example, if you have a $10,000 budget for a boat, finding a boat that's maybe seven or $8,000 or $6,000, and then making sure that it's something that your vehicles that you have can pull. One of the things that we had to do was when we upgraded from our first boat to our second boat, I realized I needed a bigger vehicle to be able to pull it. Well, I happened to actually have been in the market for a truck at the time anyway, because I needed a truck for a lot more other types of projects I was working on. And so when I upgraded my truck, I just made sure that my boat was within the weight limits of what my truck could handle. So I hope I helped answer that question there. And by the way, it's a great question. And I know it's so hard for people to try to figure out for first boat. Um, oh, wow. A 14-foot stagecraft. Awesome. Is that a tinny? Is that an aluminum boat? I love aluminum boats. Um, so let's see. So we talked about that, and looking at a couple other questions. Oh, about drilling in the back of your transom for trim tabs. I'm right there with you. There's a lot of people out there who have no problem drilling into their boat, and if they decide not to use what they had, you know, uh, installed, they just fill the hole with 5200 and call it a day. There's other people who, whenever they have holes, especially below the water line, they'll put stainless steel bolts through there with washers and 5200. So what they'll do is they'll where the holes were, they'll get a bolt that's that length, it's stainless steel with washers, fill the hole with 5200, put the bolt in with a bunch of 5200 around both ends of that, and snug it down. So that way, that area is not leaking. Those are both sort of the poor man's way of plugging up holes in your transom that you might have put in. The proper way to do it, obviously, is to grind it down, sort of dish it out, put a little bit of fiberglass in there, a bit of resin, and then gel coat over top of it. That requires some sanding and multiple stages of work, and then trying to get the gel coat to match the rest of the gel coat on your boat. Obviously, that kind of fix is much more permanent and more aesthetically pleasing, looks better. Um, I kind of like going the simpler route, and once again, especially with the older the boat is, sort of playing around with that sort of stuff rather than trying to match, the gel coat color or whatever. So, um, that's yeah, it's hard. It's hard drilling into your boat, and especially below the water line or right at the water line. And me here, so your boat is a fiberglass half cabin, 14 foot. That's cool. I see a lot of those kinds of boats on uh in Reddit. There's a couple of boating groups in Reddit that I frequent, and I noticed that in Europe and Australia, I see a lot of these smaller, kind of like enclosed front boats, and those are really cool. And you just don't see any of those around here at all. Most of our boats that are below 16, 18 feet are completely open or a center console. We don't have a lot of them that have like just a windshield and sort of a cabin to keep you out of the weather on the front of the boat that are smaller. Most of them are larger boats. Um, yeah, Carl, 5200 is the 3M marine sealant. They make two main kinds. They make about probably 500 different ones. The 5200 is more of a permanent sealant, and 4200 is a flexible sealant. But before you go to do any of that sort of stuff, if you go to drill some holes in and you want to fill them in, double check, triple check, ask around to a lot of different things, because what I find is that the more I dig into that stuff, the more variety of answers I hear, and you'll run into just as many people who say, "Oh, I stuck bubble gum in there and it worked for a decade," as you find somebody else who tells you that you need to basically, throw away the whole entire boat because you drilled a hole in the hull. So, um, 5200 is more of a solid um, one. It dries hard, and the 4200 dries soft. And so, a lot of people use 4200 for bedding, things like bolts that you want to be able to remove, and they use 5200 for things that you want to be a permanent fix. So anyway, okay, sorry for that little pause there. Um, let me go over a couple other little things here. Actually, I was just looking at our poll, and right now, 55% of people have not started winterizing yet. And part of the reason I asked was because I have lots of videos on YouTube. I actually have a whole playlist about winterizing. Um, and I'd love to make a lot more videos about it. And what's interesting is recently, over the last couple of weeks, I've started seeing a real uptick in views for any of the winterizing videos. And I know, like up where Joe is, I think he's up in Maine. Obviously, it's getting colder up there this time of year. And, the farther south you go, the later winter starts. So people who are up in Wisconsin and Maine and some of those areas, I'm sure they are really getting ready to start winterizing or already doing it. And people down here are looking at it going, okay, in the next month or so, I've got to start thinking that way. And of course, people down in Florida, you ain't got to worry about it, which is awesome. Anyway, so winterizing, yeah, so 55% of the people on right now have not started winterizing, and yeah, but it's getting to be that time of year and it stinks. I look at it as a time where I get to do some of the projects on my boat without having to go down to the marina and have work in sometimes very hot conditions down there as I'm trying to do things to my boat. So sometimes it's nice having it up here in the yard on the trailer. I can take things apart, leave them open, and take my time doing some of the projects. All right. So let's see, a couple other things I wanted to talk about. Oh, summer boating recap. I know there was a few people who view my channel um, who've mentioned in some of the recent videos or whatever. They're like, "Hey, how come you haven't posted many, kind of you riding around enjoying your boat videos?" Because a lot of mine are, hey, here's this project or here's something I'm fixing. Here's this type of thing. And what we did some boating this summer. Not probably as much as we did last summer because this year we had a lot of issues with weather. There was a lot of times where on the weekends the weather was just not very good. So there was a lot of Saturdays or Sundays where we would normally been boating, and it just wasn't a good weekend for boating. Part of it was some of the hurricanes that occurred either off in the Atlantic or in the Gulf. By the time they get to where we are, a lot of times it's just a whole lot of rain and some wind. But a lot of times it makes the conditions out in the bay not very pleasant. And it seemed like there was always something either going on or the weather wasn't right or, you know, a lot of those kinds of things this summer. But we did get out on our boat quite a bit. And if I was to tally up compared to how a lot of other people often they use their boat, we probably went out twice as much as a lot of other people, half as much as guys who go fishing and regularly are out there boating every weekend, regardless. But yeah, it wasn't it wasn't a very busy summer for us boating. There was a lot of destinations that we had planned that we didn't get to, and quite honestly, probably could have yesterday or today, but today I'm doing this. So we didn't get our boat out yesterday just because taking care of some stuff so that I could do this today. Um, but anyway, we did have a good time with our boat this summer, and other than the uh, tilt trim on the motor not working, everything else has been, knock wood, just fine. Um, the big boats work great, and it hasn't used much fuel at all either, too. There's a lot of times we went out and hardly used any fuel, which was great. Um, and a couple of things we did get to do this summer. We took our boat farther destinations than we'd ever taken it before, which to once again to other people in our area would be like, "Oh, that's not far at all. I went there the first time I took a boat out." For us, they were landmarks. So we went down to Thomas Point Lighthouse one time and anchored down there and had some lunch, and which was great. And we went across the bay a couple of times. So we went farther. We used our boat more, but yeah, didn't get everywhere where we planned to go. All right, so I see a couple other people are on here now. Thomas, hello from South Carolina, and hello from Maryland. Um, he's on the way home from the river right now. That's awesome. Very jealous. And South Carolina, that's an area where you probably don't ever have to winterize your boat. And Carl, who happens to live close by, yeah, yeah, the weather was pretty bad too. There was a lot of weekends that were when it was nice enough to boat, the temperatures were so hot and the humidity was so high that it was just brutal being out there. Matter of fact, one of the things I did get to do this summer was go sailing, which was pretty cool. Um, and the neat thing about it is obviously, sailing is kind of nifty, because you're just silently out there. You get the sails set and you just go. Um, we weren't in any kind of racing sailboat. I think it was probably 21-foot sailboat. I wasn't having to do anything except for follow instructions, which was very nice. There was just two of us out on the boat. Um, but when we went out, it was an extremely hot day, and that made it very tough, because, the sun beating on you and there wasn't a whole lot of wind, so it was okay for sailing for what I like to do for sailing, but it was brutal out there. Um, Me here, you have a question. Go ahead. Please just go ahead and type your question in there, and I'm reading the feed as we go along here, so yeah, and Thomas, you get to go fishing all year round. That's awesome. That's so cool. I don't fish myself, but I think it's so cool, and I like to watch a lot of the videos of a lot of the people who do a lot of fishing because a lot of you fishermen, you know a lot more about outfitting your boats, dealing with stuff. A lot of you really good at coming up with very creative ideas, doing stuff on a budget, doing a lot of neat modifications, and just building some fantastic things. I see some guys out here fishing in their kayaks and stuff, and the setups they have is fantastic. There was a guy I saw the other day. He had a jet ski, and on the back of it, he had his crabbing rig. So basically, he set crab traps and then used his jet ski to go retrieve the crabs from the crab traps. So he had a setup on the back of his jet ski with the baskets, and he had the net and everything like that because he had his jet ski on the trailer with the whole setup there. So you could like take an eyeball of it and look at it and go like, I see exactly what it is he's doing here. He's going and retrieving the crabs from his crab traps from on a jet ski. And I was like, that's crazy, but it's so cool because, you see everything out there. You see somebody out there in a 12-foot John boat way on out there somewhere doing that sort of stuff, and then you'll see a guy with a jet ski who's crabbing. Oh, boating apps. Yes, me here. I do have some boating apps I recommend. I'm not sure if Argo navigation works in Australia, but I've been using that because it's a free navigation app, and it works really well for my types of purposes because when I'm going out, I want to know how long does it take me to get to another destination boating at the speed I boat, and it maps me the route through the water depth that my boat can handle according to the charts, not actual depths, and tells me how long it'll take to get there. So if I pick a destination over on the eastern shore across the bay, I can pick my home marina, pick that destination, and it'll tell me here's the route to take, and it's going to take you 2 hours to get there at the speed that you typically travel. And that's a really cool app, and it's worked well for us. Another app I like to use before I go out is an app called Windy, and I believe that works everywhere. Now there's just like with Argo navigation, there's a couple of them when you go into like I go into the Apple store to get those things. There's a couple of different ones named that, so make sure you get the right ones. The Windy app, the maroon colored one is the one to get, and you can actually slide forward on the timeline and see what the winds are gonna be like tomorrow or this evening or the next day, how strong the winds are, where they're coming from, and that's really useful as well. I actually talk about both of those apps in a video I made. I believe it's titled, "Is It Safe to Boat Today?" And it's about using those apps and another US-based one from the Boat US Foundation, um, to determine whether or not it's a good day for me to go out. So those are the boating apps I use right now. Um, yeah, Carl, my wife and I like to do the same thing. There's a lot of times that we kind of are zigging while everybody else is zagging. We'll go out in the morning, and we're actually on this side of the Magathy. You were asking that question earlier. We're on the Dina side, and we'll go grab lunch or go out, and a lot of times we're coming back in when everybody else is going out for the afternoon. So we don't usually raft up with other people. And yeah, Carl, the Boat US app is fantastic because I basically use that. If I see small craft advisory, I know that we're not going out in the bay that day because it's not going to be pleasant for my wife or other passengers if I'm taking people out. Um, do crabs feel no emotions? I honestly, I think I don't know. I feel like they do. I mean, like, I don't think a bug wants to be killed, and I think of a crab like a bug, so, um, I would go get crabs and go crabbing, but my wife doesn't wanna cook crabs. She doesn't mind eating crabs, she loves to eat crabs, but she doesn't want to cook crabs because she doesn't like the idea of how you prepare them, and we won't go into that right now, but yeah, she doesn't ever wanna cook crabs, so I don't go crabbing because she won't cook them. Oh, sorry that Argo only works in the US. There are some other free navigation apps out there, though. Time Zero might be one. I've tried a couple other ones. I had one on my phone here called Nautical that I was using for a while, which is basically just nautical charts. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell you what works, best for your particular boat. But um, I did miss another question. Carl, you asked if I ever beach my boat. Um, I have not beached my boat yet, knock wood. Um, my, can't remember, skeg, I think it is the very bottom part of my engine one time did drag into the sand a little bit when I was in some very shallow water once or twice. But I have not beached my boat because I keep a good eye on where the shallow waters are around here, and I try to always give the markers a pretty wide berth, and I've been lucky. So, there are some places I've go to where it's shallow, but I usually will take one of my little boats and go there first, and, of course, I'm intentionally beaching those because 'cause they're a 12-foot boat, so I've got a, couple inch draft and, you know, so, um, it's not a problem whenever you're in a little boat. That's sort of why you have a little boat. Another thing we did this summer, and once again, to anybody who's been boating for a long time, they will be like, "I don't believe it." We went out for the first time at night with our well, not with our boat, with somebody else's boat, and, that was really cool. And I watch the boats come in and out, at night sometimes, but, we've never been out at night, and mostly just because we've never felt the need to. Usually, my wife and I get up really, really early, in the mornings, so she doesn't usually wanna be out after dark, because in the summertime, sun doesn't go down till, like, almost 9 o'clock, and, she's usually in bed by then because she gets up really early in the morning. So, we, uh, we don't go out after dark, and then, of course, by this time of year where it's getting darker earlier, Well, that's when people are going out less, and usually it's nicer weather during the day to go out. So just by chance, we don't usually go out at night, but we happened to go out with another couple about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we went out to dinner by boat, and we came back, and it was well after dark, and so that was awesome. Um, One of the things that people do around here whenever they go out boating after dark is a lot of them will have a spotlight, a handheld torch flashlight that they'll use periodically to look for the markers. So whenever they're in an area where there should be a marker, they will, and that was my job, was I was the guy who was to shine the light to find the markers. Because boats don't have headlights, and if they did, it would be probably quite a nuisance out there on the water. So, see a couple other people are on here now. Gull asked if I do fishing. I don't. I don't fish. I have a lot of friends who do, but no, I don't. I don't fish myself at all. I just don't really enjoy it. Um, I'm kind of always on the move type of person. Um, yeah, fishing. But I once again, I have a lot of friends who do it, and I think it's cool. And I've gone out on boats fishing before, but yep. All right, me here. See you later. um, yeah. Animal Science TV asked, dares me to do a poll on the Real Channel. Do you want me to do a fishing video? I will do that poll. And yeah, I am curious about that, and uh, I have some ideas already in my head for that kind of a thing. So um, anyway, we're gonna wrap up here pretty soon. Once again, I wanted to thank everybody who came on. I know some people came on and went off, um, and I was really debating even whether or not to do this. um, to do a live today, but there's enough people participating and watching, so that makes it totally worth it to me. And that was why I wanted to do it, because since I'm not making as many regular videos, I sort of wanted to give people a chance to ask some questions and give everybody a little bit of an update of what's going on. Um, so I do have some other videos in the works, some projects. I have a lot of things that are sitting, um, sort of projects that have started but have never been finished because I haven't ordered the parts for them or just had time to actually really dig into them. And and hey, Jared, thanks for coming on. Nice to hear from you. Um, but yeah, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, so projects. So one of them was I bought a another small outboard over the winter. It's an Evinrude 2, 2 horsepower, 2 stroke, and I got to a certain point where I was sort of checking it out and testing it out, and I think it needs points. But before I buy points for it, I want to really make sure that the points that are in there don't work. So I haven't ordered the points kit for that yet, so I haven't worked on it, and it's probably something I won't even be working on until after I've winterized my boat, got it out of the water, and got some other things, going on. And hi, Daryl. Thanks for coming on. Um, but yeah, there's always projects, and there's a lot of things that if I could make a video every day, I would, because there's just so many things that are fun to play with that I like doing and making videos about. And somebody asked the question. I just saw that. Oh, Jeremy. Hi, Jeremy. Jeremy asked, "Is there a story about the prop on my shelf?" It's a fantastic story. My daughter went to Hobby Lobby and bought it for me because I was asking for some cool things for my shelf behind me. So she bought that at Hobby Lobby for me about a month ago. So yeah, that's the cool story. I really should come up with a much better story than that, but that's the truth. So that's where that came from. So anyway, me here, you better get to work. Um, And yes, Carl, I will still be talking about boating even the winter. Um, and I actually am going to try to see if I can get to one of the boat shows that's coming up soon. And yes, Bill, hi Bill. Um, I'm going to try filing those points. That's one of the things I was thinking about. I don't want to just um, uh, just replace them. That's what I had done in the past. Is anytime that stuff wouldn't work, I just go buy a whole points kit and put that in there. And I want to actually kind of play around with it a little bit and see if I can, you know, get these ones, bring them back to life because I've seen where other people have done that. If anybody watches Brandon's Garage, he knows a lot about engines and he's done a lot of little outboard videos, and I watch his videos sometimes when I'm trying to figure something out. And actually, he and I have chatted a couple of times because when I was trying to figure out how to get the starter cord for my Evinrude 2 wound back in, I actually had reached out to him because I watched one of his videos, and I told him, I said, "Hey, when I make my video, I'm going to talk about the fact that I watched your video to figure out how to get that rope fixed back on my outboard." So yeah, there's a lot more knowledgeable people out there than me with that stuff. I just enjoy playing with it and trying it out and seeing if somebody who doesn't know a whole lot about this sort of stuff can kind of figure it out and work it out and show you my perspective on how I tackle those things. Because I've had a pretty good success rate with the things that I've tackled. So I'm pretty happy about that. Um, No, Mike, it is not. Hi, Mike. It is not too late in the season to take out my new paddle boat. Um, uh, I um, I do plan on getting it on the water. The water's temperatures are still good here, so I do plan on getting that out. Um, and see how that goes. And Jared, look me up on Instagram, okay? Because maybe you can come over and play with me with that Evinrude 2 sometime. I would certainly like to have some help, and I think if that's right up your alley, if you want to, we certainly could play around with that together. Um, yeah, and me here, yes. Danger Marine, Brewpeg, great channels too. Yeah, Danger Marine, I have one of his T-shirts that I wear in some of my videos. His was one of the first boating channels that I started watching as I was getting into things, and yeah, really like watching him. Stu makes some good content. And yeah, Mike, you'll see. I'm gonna play around with that pedal boat. Um, I I'm really got it to surprise my wife. That was kind of the whole reason I got it. So little tip there. That's one of the things. If like 30 some odd years ago you took your wife to ride a pedal boat on your first date, it's always good to buy them like a nice musty, moldy old one. 35 years later. So yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap everything up. I don't see any more questions really coming in. Thank you all for watching. And say there will be a new video probably coming out next Sunday. I've switched to a Sunday release schedule lately. And some of my friends and other people here, thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate you coming on and you taking part in the live chat aspect of this. And yes, I am on Instagram and Facebook. Look for Wayne the Boat Guy in both of those places. I think on Instagram it's Wayne the Boat Guy all together, and I have links to those on my channel page and YouTube as well. So my Facebook and Instagram show a little bit more real time of some of the things that are going on, and uh, yeah. So that's it. Trying to remember what my next video that's coming out is. Oh, yeah, yeah, I remember now. Yeah. I'm not gonna tell you. No. I'll post something about it this week as I start getting the video together. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm gonna sign off right now, and we'll see you next time. And hey, you stay safe out there on the water.